everybody. Welcome into this week's episode of Tony's Spot on Fishing. I'm your host, Tony Krizek, and this week we're back home, sweet home Chicago, fishing the lakefront for some early season kings. Now, it's almost the end of September, and you wouldn't necessarily think that this is early season, but the run has been really weird. Those kings have been around, but just not very aggressive. And what we want to show you is, even under these conditions, hopefully, if you really work for it, you can get these fish to go. But we're going to show you that not always is that the case. You're going to see it good, bad, or indifferent. And this is our first time out fishing kings on the lakefront. Trip here, our first adventure for the Kings, actually started last night, and we were out throwing some glow spoons, some crankbaits around. Saw a few fish jump. We had a few bumps as well, but man, it was just a lot of casting and cranking for a whole lot of nothing. Now today so far, we've been out. We actually got on the water right at about 2 o'clock, and with me today is my good buddy Eric Wyrag. We're out here giving it a go, throwing spoons and cranks, a little bit of everything. When we first got here, we noticed a few kings that actually cruised by, and we're out here on this first main point just north of the mouth of the harbor at Diversey. A lot of times they'll kind of pool up in a deep little pool, they'll come up to the wall, and then they follow it down, and that's how they'll enter the harbor. So we actually saw a school come by right off the bat, a couple fish jumping, and could not get a fish going right away on a spoon. So a lot of times if we know we have kings here, no doubt, and we can't get them to go on a spoon, we usually will end up throwing a crankbait right away. And I had actually switched over to that reef runner, the deep diving reef runner right away. About the third cast, looked to be either a smaller steelhead or an actual coho had followed it in. So that was a good sign to see the other salmonoids are already up. And just based off of time of year, they know that these kings are going to be dropping eggs. So a lot of the browns are going to get real active as they'll munch on that spawn as well. And you're going to get the alewives coming up with the cooler water temperatures. So it's really a fun part when the run is kind of delayed like this. You'll start getting the rest of the species up, the cohos and the steelheads as well. But water temperature as of right now, still about 63 to 65, depending where you're at in the city. So it's still a little on the warm side, really, for these kings. And we had reports that Kenosha and Racine were just on fire. And a couple of my buddies that are fishing up there now, that whole bite's just slowed down. The east winds pushed the warm water back in, slowed it way down. So it's a key factor to watch winds. Now, we had a straight west wind blowing yesterday, and it's southwest today. So that's still cooling that water a little bit. And hopefully, as the evening turns on, we're going to see more fish. We definitely noticed them jumping and cruising, though, in that activity window of that moon phase. So those lunar apps that you can get for your smartphones, I'll tell you what, they're worth their weight in gold. And no pun intended, they are oftentimes spot on. So that we got outside that window, that major feeding window, and man, it went quiet on us out here. No more jumpers. We haven't seen anything cruising. You know, we know they're here. They showed themselves during that window. We got a minor window that's going to be coming up here in just a matter of moments. That'll last about 2 hours. So we're hoping to see some activity there, and then also as we transition into the dark. But also wanted to take this opportunity while we're out here to kind of answer some more questions that we've received over the last week since our last King show came out, and actually just talk about retrieves and things of that nature. That seemed to be the one topic that we didn't cover in the previous week's show. And there's really no right or wrong or no rhyme or reason to how we can retrieve on a spoon. It's a lot of trial and error throughout the entire day, and it can change throughout the day. Sometimes when we throw a spoon out, I may let it sink for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds. Sometimes we'll let it go all the way to the bottom. Sometimes a super slow retrieve, crawl in that spoon. Sometimes, super slow with a stop and go, or even, burning it, not burning it, but a quicker retrieve, moderate retrieves, stop and go with that. We can jig it. There's a lot of answers to that question as far as the retrieves when we're retrieving a spoon. Probably in the salmon world, like in the bass world, how versatile a spinnerbait is, the spoon is just as versatile in the salmon world because we can do so much with it. And one other thing too, a lot of times, we get so hung up just talking about blue and chrome during the day or green and chrome. And there's another color that we throw quite a bit, especially I prefer it on overcast skies or like this time period now where we have, the sun's just setting, starting to get a little bit less light from the sunlight. And that's where I like throwing that gold and orange, just another little color we can add to that mix. Or if you get a real cloudy day, you probably noticed from spoon-fed kings, we were throwing that gold and orange color around quite a bit. But that is another color to add to the lineup. And momentarily here, once that sun's down, we're going to be going to a glow-in-the-dark spoon. We're going to be still throwing some crankbaits if we're not getting action on the spoons. We got our magworts, our reef runners all ready to go. But it is a grind. And like we said, win, lose, or draw, this show is going to be released whether we catch one or not. And it's more just to show that if you're not having success out here, you're not alone. It's been a very tough run this year and weird weather patterns, water temperatures. Stick with it. You'll get them, though. Well, hey, everybody, that's about all the time we have for this week. As you can tell, it was a grind. We've been out about 8-9 hours now. Saw fish moving. They're here. That second wave came up, but that first wave just trickled into the harbors here and there, and that's why we always were hearing these fish, one here, one there. But saw fish jumping and cruising around today. They're definitely here. Water's still a hair warm. I think next week, this week that this show will air and the week after, I think is just going to be phenomenal for the city, and hopefully we'll get back down here and be able to film some more salmon shows for everybody. But like we said, we just wanted to give a actual look into what it's really been this year, I should say. It's just been tough. It's been a grind, but if you stick it out, you're going to be successful. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Krizek, and after I go home and get a good night's sleep, we'll see you again on Tony's Spot On Fishing.